I was 22 years old, standing in my childhood bedroom, packing the last of my belongings into cardboard boxes. My valedictorian certificate hung crooked on the wall, gathering dust like the dreams it once represented. I had worked my entire life for one goal, becoming a doctor. The full ride scholarship to Stanford was supposed to be my ticket to that future. Little did I know that one phone call from my cousin would change everything, and my father's decision would shatter not just my dreams, but our entire family. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe for more real family stories. Trust me, you will want to hear how this unfolds, because what my dad did next still gives me chills. Growing up in our suburban Denver home, education was everything. My father, Robert, worked as a mechanical engineer, and my mother, Sarah, was a registered nurse at the local hospital. They had instilled in me from the earliest age that knowledge was power, that hard work would pay off, and that education was my ticket to a better life than they could provide. Our house on Maple Street was modest but comfortable. My bedroom walls were covered with academic achievement certificates, honor roll ribbons, and science fair trophies. From elementary school through high school, I'd maintained a perfect 4.0 grade point average. I was not just a bookworm, though. I served as student council president my senior year, volunteered over 300 hours at Denver General Hospital, and scored 1,580 out of 1,600 on my SATs. When the acceptance letter from Stanford University arrived with a full academic scholarship for their pre-medical program, my parents cried tears of joy. My father held that letter like it was made of gold, telling everyone at his work, at church, at the grocery store about his brilliant daughter who was going to become a doctor. But there was another member of our extended family who would soon change everything. My cousin Jake lived in Ohio with his parents. Jake was 24, 2 years older than me, and the son of my father's older brother. Uncle Tom had lost his job at the manufacturing plant 3 years earlier, and their family had been struggling financially ever since. Jake and I had been close growing up. Every Thanksgiving and Christmas, our families would gather, and Jake would always look out for me like the big brother I never had. When kids at school would tease me for being a nerd, Jake would tell them to back off. He had this protective energy about him that made me feel safe. Jake had started college right after high school, attending Ohio State University for business. But after 2 years, he dropped out. He said college was not for him, that he needed to work and help support his family. For the past 4 years, he had been bouncing between various jobs, never staying anywhere long enough to build a real career. The first sign that something was changing came during the spring of my senior year. I started noticing my father taking more phone calls in private, stepping out onto the back porch when Uncle Tom would call. My mother and father began having hushed conversations that would stop abruptly when I entered the room. One evening in April, just 2 months before my high school graduation, I overheard part of a conversation my father was having with Uncle Tom. Jake wanted to go back to school. He had realized that without a college degree, his options were limited, and he was tired of working dead-end jobs. The problem was that Uncle Tom's family had no money saved for college, and Jake's credit was poor from some financial mistakes he had made in his early 20s. I remember feeling sympathetic toward Jake's situation. I even suggested to my parents that maybe we could help him apply for financial aid or find some scholarships. My father patted my head and said, "That is very generous of you, sweetheart. Family should always help family." At the time, I thought nothing more of it. I was too focused on my own future, on preparing for Stanford, on the exciting prospect of finally pursuing my dream of becoming a doctor. I had wanted to be a physician since I was 8 years old, ever since my grandmother had been hospitalized, and I watched the doctors save her life. As spring turned to summer, I noticed the phone calls between my father and Uncle Tom becoming more frequent. My mother seemed increasingly stressed, and there were times I caught her staring off into space with a worried expression on her face. When I asked if everything was okay, she would force a smile and tell me not to worry about adult problems. The scholarship from Stanford covered my full tuition, which was a tremendous blessing. However, like most scholarships, it did not cover room and board books or living expenses. My parents had been saving in a college fund for me since I was 7 years old. Over 15 years, they had managed to put away $85,000, which would easily cover my living expenses for 4 years of undergraduate study and even help with medical school applications. I felt so grateful and excited about my future. Everything was falling into place exactly as I had planned and worked for my entire life. The conversation that would change my life forever happened on a warm Saturday evening in June, just 1 week before my high school graduation ceremony. My parents called me downstairs to the living room, and I knew immediately that something serious was happening. My mother's eyes were red and puffy like she had been crying. My father sat stiffly on the edge of the couch, his hands clasped together in front of him. "Marina, honey, sit down. We need to talk to you about something important." My father said, his voice unusually formal. I settled into the armchair across from them, a knot forming in my stomach. "What is going on?" I asked. My father cleared his throat. "You know that Uncle Tom and Jake have been going through a tough time financially. Well, Jake has been accepted to the University of Colorado Boulder for their business program. It is a great opportunity for him to turn his life around and build a real career." I nodded, still not understanding why this required such a serious family meeting. "That is wonderful news for Jake. I am happy for him. The thing is," my father continued, avoiding my eyes, "Uncle Tom cannot afford to send Jake to school. They have no savings, no college fund, and Jake's credit issues mean he cannot qualify for most student loans." My mother spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. "Marina, we have decided to use your college fund to help Jake pay for his education." The words hit me like a physical blow. I felt the air leave my lungs as I tried to process what I had just heard. "What do you mean, use my college fund?" "All of it," my father said, finally meeting my eyes. "The full $85,000. Jake needs this chance, Marina. He is older than you, and if he does not get his degree now, he may never get another opportunity. You are incredibly smart and talented. You will find another way to pay for college." I stared at them in complete shock. "But Dad, I have Stanford. I have been working toward this my entire life. That money is supposed to cover my room and board and living expenses." "I know this is difficult to understand," my father said, his voice taking on a defensive tone, "but family comes first always. Jake is family, and he needs our help more than you do right now." More than I do," I repeated, my voice rising. "I have been accepted to one of the best universities in the country with a full academic scholarship. This is my chance to become a doctor, to fulfill the dreams you both encouraged me to pursue my whole life." My mother reached out to touch my hand. "Sweetie, we know how hard you have worked, and we are so proud of you. But the scholarship covers your tuition. You are resourceful and intelligent. You can find a way to make it work." I pulled my hand away from hers, feeling betrayed and confused. How am I supposed to make it work? Do you have any idea how much it costs to live in California? How am I supposed to focus on pre-med coursework if I have to work multiple jobs just to survive? My father's expression hardened. "Marina, I have made this decision, and it is final. Jake has already been told that we will support his education. I will not go back on my word to family." The room fell silent except for the sound of my mother quietly crying. I felt like I was in a nightmare, like this could not possibly be happening. Everything I had worked for, everything I had planned was crumbling in front of me. 2 days later, Jake called to thank me personally. His voice was cheerful and excited, and I could hear none of the gratitude or humility I had expected. "Marina, I can't tell you how much this means to me," he said. "Your dad is amazing for doing this. I promise I will make the most of this opportunity." "What about paying the money back?" I asked, my voice flat with disappointment. "Oh, absolutely," Jake said quickly. "As soon as I graduate and get a good job, I will start paying your parents back. You are so smart, though I am sure you will figure out another way to pay for college. Maybe you will even get more scholarships or something. His casual attitude about destroying my carefully laid plans made my stomach turn. It was as if my sacrifice meant nothing to him, just a convenient solution to his problems. The deadline to accept or decline my Stanford scholarship was approaching rapidly. With no way to cover living expenses and no support from my family, I had no choice but to decline the opportunity I had worked 18 years to achieve. Instead, I enrolled at the Community College of Denver and found 2 part-time jobs waiting tables at a 24-hour diner and tutoring high school students in math and science. The next 2 years were the most challenging of my life. I would wake up at 5 in the morning to open the diner work until 2 in the afternoon, then rush to the library to study before my evening tutoring sessions. I often did not get home until after 11 at night, and then I would stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning completing my coursework. While I was working myself to exhaustion and maintaining a perfect 4.0 grade point average at community college, Jake was living the typical college experience in Boulder. His social media posts showed a constant stream of parties, fraternity events, expensive restaurants, and weekend trips to ski resorts. He had bought himself a brand new laptop designer clothes and was eating out regularly instead of living on ramen noodles like most college students. What frustrated me most was that Jake rarely called to check on our family or express gratitude for the enormous sacrifice that had been made for his benefit. When he did call, it was usually to ask for additional money for textbooks or other expenses that should have been covered by the original fund. My father remained defensive about his decision whenever the topic came up. Marina is doing just fine, he would tell anyone who questioned the choice. She is getting excellent grades and learning valuable life skills. This was the right decision for our family. My mother, on the other hand, was clearly struggling with guilt. She would slip me $20 or $40 whenever my father was not around, whispering apologies and telling me how proud she was of how I was handling everything. But she was not strong enough to stand up to my father or demand that he reconsider his decision. The breaking point came during Thanksgiving dinner when I was 19 years old. Jake arrived with his new girlfriend, both of them dressed in expensive clothes that I knew had been purchased with money from my college fund. Throughout dinner, Jake talked extensively about his college experience, boasting about his grades, which I later learned were mostly B's and C's, hardly the academic excellence that would justify the investment my father had made. As we were clearing the dinner dishes, Jake casually mentioned that he was considering graduate school after finishing his bachelor's degree. "Uncle Robert," he said, turning to my father, "I have been thinking about maybe getting an MBA after I graduate. Do you think that would be a good investment? I mean, if my grades improve a little, I might be able to get into a decent program." I watched in horror as my father actually nodded thoughtfully. "Well, if your grades do improve and you can show that you are serious about your studies, we might be able to help with that too." That was the moment I exploded. I slammed my hands on the dining table and stood up, my voice shaking with rage. "Are you kidding me? He has not even paid back a single dollar of what you already gave him, and now you are talking about giving him even more money." Jake looked at me with genuine surprise, as if my anger was completely unreasonable. "Relax, Marina. It is not like you needed that money anyway. You are doing fine working and going to community college. Besides, an MBA would really set me up for success." "Doing fine." I repeated, my voice rising to nearly a shout. "I am working 60 hours a week and going to school full time. I have not had a day off in 8 months. I declined a full scholarship to Stanford University because of you." My father stood up and pointed his finger at me. "Marina, that is enough. Do not be selfish. We are family, and family helps family. Jake needed this opportunity more than you did." Selfish? I could not believe what I was hearing. "I am selfish for being angry that you destroyed my future to fund his party lifestyle." The argument continued for another 20 minutes with my father, and Jake ganging up against me while my mother sat silently, tears streaming down her face. That night, I realized that my father would never acknowledge his mistake, and Jake would never appreciate what had been taken from me. Over the following months, I made some devastating discoveries about how Jake was actually spending his college years. Through mutual friends, I learned that he had dropped out of the business program after his first year, claiming it was too difficult. He had switched to a communications major, which he described as much more manageable. His grade point average was barely above 2.0, just high enough to avoid academic probation. Meanwhile, I had managed to maintain a perfect 4.0 at community college while working multiple jobs. I was exhausted, stressed, and resentful, but I was also developing a fierce determination to succeed despite the obstacles that had been placed in my path. The final straw came when Jake posted photos on social media of a spring break trip to Cancun that he had taken with his fraternity brothers. The photos showed him at expensive restaurants, luxury hotels, and beach resorts. In the comments, he thanked family support for making it possible for him to live his best college life. I realized that night, staring at those photos on my cracked phone screen while sitting in my tiny studio apartment, that I could no longer rely on my family for support or validation. If I was going to build the life I wanted, I would have to do it entirely on my own. The next 4 years became a testament to what a person can accomplish when they have no choice but to succeed. I transferred from community college to the University of Denver with a full academic scholarship that I had earned through my perfect grades and extensive volunteer work. I decided to double major in pre-med and business administration, figuring that if medical school did not work out, I would have a backup plan. The workload was intense, but I had already learned how to balance academics with work from my community college years. I continued tutoring to pay for my living expenses and took out minimal student loans to cover what my part-time income could not handle. Every dollar I borrowed felt like an investment in my future independence. During my undergraduate years, I volunteered at 3 different hospitals, conducted research with 2 different professors, and maintained a 3.98 grade point average. When I applied to medical school, I was accepted to the University of Colorado School of Medicine with a partial scholarship. Medical school was the most challenging thing I had ever done, but I was prepared for hard work in a way that many of my classmates were not. While they complained about the long hours and demanding coursework, I felt grateful to finally be pursuing my childhood dream. I specialized in emergency medicine, drawn to the fast-paced environment and the opportunity to help people during their most vulnerable moments. Meanwhile, Jake graduated from the University of Colorado Boulder with a communications degree and a final grade point average of 2.1. He moved back in with his parents and spent several months unemployed, claiming that the job market was unfair and that his degree was not opening the doors he had expected. When he finally found work, it was a part-time position at a retail electronics store for barely above minimum wage. He complained constantly on social media about how unfulfilling his job was and how he deserved better opportunities, but he showed no initiative to improve his situation or develop new skills. I graduated from medical school at age 28 and began my residency in emergency medicine at Denver Health Medical Center. It was grueling work, often requiring 80-hour weeks, but I loved every minute of it. I was finally becoming the doctor I had dreamed of being since childhood, and I had done it without any help from my family. The irony of the situation became apparent 3 years into my residency when my father called me with devastating news. He had been diagnosed with a serious heart condition that required immediate surgery and ongoing treatment. The medical bills were overwhelming, and his insurance would only cover a portion of the costs. "Marina," he said, his voice weak and frightened, "I know I have not been the father you deserved, but I need your help. The surgery alone will cost over $100,000, and I do not know where else to turn." I listened to him explain the details of his condition and the recommended treatment plan. As a medical professional, I understood exactly how serious his situation was and what the financial implications would be for my parents. "What about Jake?" I asked. "Can he help with the medical bills?" There was a long pause before my father answered. "Jake is still working at the electronics store. He does not have any savings, and he says he cannot afford to help right now." That was the moment my father finally acknowledged what I had known for years. "Marina, I made a terrible mistake. I should have supported your dreams instead of his. You have built something incredible with your life, and I am so proud of you. Jake has done nothing with the opportunity I gave him." I felt a complex mixture of emotions, vindication, sadness, and surprisingly compassion. My father was facing a life-threatening health crisis, and despite everything that had happened between us, I could not turn my back on him. "Dad," I said, "I will help you with the medical bills, not because I owe you anything, but because it is the right thing to do." Over the next year, I paid for my father's surgery, ongoing cardiac care, and rehabilitation. It cost me nearly everything I had saved during my residency, but I did it willingly. Not out of obligation or guilt, but because I had learned that holding on to anger and resentment only poisoned my own happiness. My father survived the surgery and made a full recovery. Our relationship slowly began to heal, though it would never be the same as it had been before that devastating conversation when I was 18. He had learned too late that investing in the wrong person had cost him not just money, but his relationship with the daughter, who could have made a real difference in the world. Today, I am a successful emergency medicine physician at one of Denver's top hospitals. I have my own house, a fulfilling career, and the respect of my colleagues and patients. More importantly, I have learned that when you build something from nothing with your own hands and determination, no one can ever take that away from you. I also started a scholarship fund for students from disadvantaged backgrounds who show academic promise but lack financial support. Every year, I help 5 young people avoid the choice I was forced to make between family loyalty and personal dreams. As for Jake, he still works at the electronics store and lives with his parents. He has never paid back a single dollar of the money my father gave him, and he still occasionally posts on social media about how unfair life has been to him. My father's decision to sacrifice my future for my cousin taught me the most valuable lesson of my life: the only person you can truly depend on is yourself. But it also taught me that sometimes the people who break your heart end up giving you the strength to build something even better than what you originally planned. I am not just a doctor today. I am a woman who knows her worth and will never again let anyone else decide my future for me. The pain of that betrayal became the fuel for my success, and I am grateful for the strength it gave me, even if I would never wish that experience on anyone else. Sometimes the people who should protect your dreams are the ones who shatter them, but those broken pieces can become the foundation for something even stronger. And that is exactly what I did with mine. What do you think about my family's choice? Have you ever had to rebuild your dreams after someone you trusted let you down? Let me know in the comments below, and do not forget to hit that like button if this story resonated with you. Subscribe for more real family stories that will make you think about your own relationships. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that they can overcome family betrayal and build their own success. Thank you so much for listening to my story, and I hope it reminds you that your dreams are worth fighting for even when the people closest to you do not believe in them. Keep pushing forward, and remember that sometimes the biggest setbacks lead to the greatest comebacks.